Hello everyone, my name is Mario Tiozzo and I'm the Data Analysis and Visualization Librarian here at UMB Libraries. Today we're going to build from our first two videos on Power BI and explore how to use our linked data tables to create visual elements for our report. If you haven't listened to the previous videos, it might be a good idea to do so in order to be able to follow along without any added friction. You'll recall that we were able to ingest 3 Excel tables in Power BI, our fact table, test scores, and 2-dimension tables, student profile, and subject category, as well as refine the data and link our data tables to establish relationships between them. Just my regular disclaimer, these data tables are fictional, they were created using randomly generated numbers, and don't represent anything based in reality. They are simply used for explanatory purposes. In the past few videos, we've seen different views, table view, model view, etc. In this video, we'll be focusing most of our attention on report view. As a refresher, the main white space on the screen is called the report canvas. This is where different elements of your report will ultimately appear. On the right, we have the data pane, which shows us what data, in this case tables, we have ingested in the session of Power BI. These are expandable, so we can see what fields are in each associated table. Next to that, we have the build pane. Sometimes it's called the visualizations pane, which are the visualizations we can use in our report canvas to represent our data. You can expand and collapse these by pressing here. You can also expand the format pane, which includes the formatting tools for the visualizations as well as the canvas report itself by pressing here. If your version has the visualizations pane as opposed to the build pane, you will have your formatting options as an added button at the top of your visualizations pane. This shouldn't really be an issue though if you followed the options prompt from the first video. Finally, there is a filters pane, which we will discuss a little later in this series. Okay, let's get started on our first visualization. There are several ways to create a visualization. You can click on one of the buttons in a data pane and then insert your data in it. You can also click on your data and Power BI will guess as to what is the most appropriate visualization for that type of data. Let's click on the score field in the test scores table since it is one of the only quantitative data series that we have. When we do that, Power BI creates a card. This is a representation of a single data point. You can see that this is a sum of all scores in the data set. This is not super helpful, so let's change this to median value to find out what the middle score is within this data series. So we can do that clicking here, and the summarization, it's being summed right now. The drop-down menu, we can select a host of different options. Let's pick median. So we now know that the median score is 76. We can change this visualization type by selecting our data viz. In this case, it's already selected, and clicking on another visualization button. So if we wanted a column chart, for example, we could do that, or a bar chart, we could do that. But let's go back to the card for now. Now let's work on the formatting a bit. Each visual element will have some formatting features. Some have a few, and some have quite a few. We will go over a smattering of them in this video, but I would encourage you to explore the formatting options of the visuals you are working with and play around to see how you can make them as powerful as possible. So let's open up the formatting pane. So we have two main sections, the visual section and a properties section. Let's start with the visual. The callout value will alter the 76. We open that up. So we can see we can play with the font size and color and unit type and decimals, among other things. I'm pretty happy with the default, so I'm going to keep it as is. The category label is the median of score. If we expand it, we can see that we have some choices like font size, font color, etc. But I'm not a huge fan of this, so I'm going to turn this feature off altogether by clicking here. So let's close up, and let's put a title here instead of the category label. And if I expand it, I can include the text that I want. So I'll just put in median score. And we can see it here at the top of our card. Again, I could play around with the font sizes, etc., but I'm pretty happy with the default for now. Next, I'm going to go to size and style and reshape my card from a square to a box. So instead of 280 by 280, I'm going to put 160 by 520. And I'm going to click on my card and drag it down. Perfect. Now if we want to create another similar visual, we don't need to recreate the wheel. We can simply copy and paste the visual and then alter it to suit our needs. So let's do this with this card and drag it below. make sure it's highlighted, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Let's just drag it. When we select the second card, we can see the data that supports it here. Let's change this out and find out how many students we are dealing with. So let's cancel median score, and we can use the student ID data series to accomplish this. We can drag it here, student ID. When we do this, we get the first student ID, which is not what we are looking for in this instance. Let's see what options we have by clicking on the drop-down menu. Count will count all the instances of student ID. If you remember, there are several instances of student ID in a test scores table. So if we selected count, it will return how many rows are in this table, which is not how many students are part of this data set. If we select count distinct, it will only count each unique student entry once, which is what we are looking for. So let's do that. Great. So we can see that there are 1,000 students in this data set. Let's go into the formatting pane to change the title. Instead of median score, let's put in number of students. Let's change the callout value to decimals, 0, and display units, none. That way we can see that the thousands separator makes it a little bit easier to read. Now you're probably thinking, this is great, but these are just numbers. What about some data visualizations? We're getting to that. Let's click on the score data again, and let's change it to median. Now let's change this to a bar chart. We'll select a clustered bar chart, this third one over here. And while this is somewhat interesting, let's add subject to this so we can see how the median score differs between subjects. Subject here, and put it in the y-axis. You can see here that there's a scroll here because we don't have enough space. So let's make this a little bit bigger here so we can see all the data. Great. Now we can tell that math is on average the highest performing subject and French is the lowest if we use median for our central tendency. Let's do a few formatting changes to this visualization. So we click on it. We can see that there are a lot more formatting options for this type of visualization compared to the card type. So let's get started. Let's click on the y-axis, expand that. Let's increase the font from 9 to 10. And let's turn off the titles because it is redundant. Okay, let's collapse the y-axis and let's move on to the x-axis. Let's turn off the title because again, it's redundant, and let's turn off the values and we'll figure out a nice workaround to do a better job of showing off the values. Let's collapse the x-axis. Let's go to data labels, turn them on, expand it, inside end. There. Now the user can see exactly what the numbers are for each subject. We can collapse the data labels now. Go to size and style. I'm going to eventually want two visuals at the bottom here, so I'm going to divide the width by 2. I know that this canvas is 1,280, so I'm going to change the width to 640. Great. And let's expand it to the bottom of number of students. Great. Finally, let's just alter the title very quickly. Collapse this. And let's just remove this up here. Median score by subject. Great. Next, let's see if there's any variability in scores by exam date. This time, let's pick our visualization first. Since we're dealing with time, a line chart is appropriate. So let's click on that button right here. And let's drag it down next to our bar chart. The red lines here are quite helpful to kind of center everything. Great. While it's highlighted, let's click on exam date. And for those who have forgotten, let's remember that exam date is actually a hierarchy. So it's selected all the components of the hierarchy. We're not really interested in the year because they're all 2025, not interested in the quarter, and the day would perhaps be a little bit too granular. So let's just stick with monthly variation. So we have month selected here. In the x-axis here, you can see the helpful bar here as well. Now let's drag the score data series into the y-axis box. So we have our score here. Let's drag it into the y-axis. Great. Alternatively, we could also have dragged it into the chart and Power BI would have figured out where to put it. It usually does a pretty good job. Sometimes you have to finagle with it, but for the most part, it knows how to recognize where it should go. Now we notice that this again is a sum of score. We're not really so interested in the sum of score, so let's change that to the median score. Okay, so we have our months at the bottom here and we have the median. Great. Let's do a few formatting changes for this visualization as well. So while it's highlighted, the title, let's do the same thing as we did before. Let's just remove the of here. Median score. Title looks good there. X-axis, let's increase that to 10 and turn off the title because it's redundant. The y-axis looks good. We could turn off the title, but we can also keep it. I turned it off last time, so let's just keep it this time. Let's turn off the grid lines as well. Not a huge fan of grid lines usually. Keep it clean. Let's go to the size here. If I've done my calculations correctly, should be 640, which is perfect. Great. It's looking pretty good. Let's move to the final visualization for this video. Let's try to illustrate how the scores differ by city. First, let's make sure that we don't have anything selected, and we can press the city field in a student profile table. We notice that a map pops up, which is the default visualization for geographic data. We notice that the default map is being retired soon, so let's pick another mapping option, the ArcGIS option, which can be found right here. Great. Let's expand it to get a closer look. So let's fill out the space now that's remaining. Okay, now let's select the score field in a test scores table. This should go into the bubble size. Highlight it. Score field into size. Great. In this case, it's a sum of scores, so let's change it to median again for consistency. So the higher the median in the city, the bigger the bubble. So I'm sure you've noticed, but the cities are being displayed all over the world, which doesn't make sense since this is a New Brunswick data set. We can see that Power BI has confused Woodstock, New Brunswick, for example, for Woodstock, England. We'll have to try to let it know somehow that we are dealing with Woodstock, New Brunswick. And we could do this in Power Query or directly in Power BI. And since we're here, let's just do it in Power BI. Let's go to the table view and access the student profile table. There it is. Great. So we can click on New Column here, and we can see a new column has been added, and there's a formula bar here that says column equals. Column is the name of the column, so let's change it to location, just to make it more intuitive. And if I click out of there now, you'll notice that the column name has changed to location. All right, now this is going to involve a little DAX coding. DAX stands for Data Analysis Expressions, and it's a language used in Power BI amongst others. You don't need to know how to write DAX per se, but I did want to show you that it can be done with this relatively easy example. For those of you who have used the ampersand character to concatenate in Excel, this will be very familiar. So we have location equal. So what do we want this column to do? We want it to start with the city. So let's take the city column, and we do this by putting in square brackets, city, and we can see here, we can select city, ampersand, which connects strings together. We're going to tell it its text, just like in Excel, by opening a quotation mark. What is our text going to be? It's going to be a comma and a space. We're going to close a quotation mark to say that's the end of the text. Ampersand again, to connect it again. What are we going to connect it to? Another column, this time the province column. We're going to open the square brackets. We're going to select province. We could also write it out if we want to, but this is a little bit easier. You guessed it, ampersand, more text. So open the quotation mark, comma, space, quotation mark, ampersand, and the final column that we want is country. So location is going to take the city, then it's going to put a comma after it and a space, then it's going to put the province, then it's going to put a comma and a space, and it's going to put the country. If we press enter, it does exactly that. So if we look at our first row, we can see that the city was Moncton, the province is New Brunswick, and the country is Canada. And in location, we can see Moncton, comma, space, NB, comma, space, Canada. Perfect. And that is replicated for the 1,000 entries in this data set. Great. You may have also noticed that location is now a usable element in the student profile table. The icon next to it means that it is a calculated row. So let's go back to our canvas in our report view. And now instead of city in the location, let's remove that and put our new calculated location in the location. And now Power BI knows that all these cities are in New Brunswick, Canada. Okay, let's do a few formatting changes to this visualization. Let's go to Map Tools and let's turn them all off. The map tools are all these things on this side here. We won't be needing them for this particular example, so let's turn them all off. You can see that once I start doing that, they start disappearing from the map. Next, let's go to Theme and let's enable the theme. This will create the same color scheme as all the other visualizations on this report. And just like before, let's just remove the of in the title here. Okay, this is our first pass at a Power BI report. Notice that all these data vises are interactive. If you were to click on Fredericton, for example, the Fredericton data is put forward. Median scorecard, the number of students, the median score by subjects, and the median score by exam month all pertain to Fredericton. We can see on this map that Campbellton has the biggest bubble and therefore the highest median. When I click on it, the same mechanism applies and I get the data specific to that city. I could also click on an element on the bar chart, for example. Let's pick English, for example, and all the English data is put forward. I could also use the control button to select multiple elements. Let's say English and history, and all the relevant data for those two elements would be put forward. Finally, I could click on the line chart if I was interested in a particular data set, for example, the April cohort. I could click on that data point on a chart and the rest of the report would produce the relevant information. Okay, that's a good spot to stop for now. We've looked at how to use our linked data tables to create visual elements for our report. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we will explore how to gain additional insights from our Power BI report by using slicers. Bye for now.